Hey guys, this is Killrob speaking, and today we are going to take a look at what's new in version 1.0.5, which is the wrap-up version for our 1.0 release. Our goal with the series of patches that we have done to the 1.0 version, now up to 0.05, was mainly to get all those more or less easy pickings or the most severe issues out of the way. So we didn't plan on implementing anything big and new, but rather polish up where it's needed the most and fix the issues that keep people from playing. This is also the point which marks the end of the full-time development of the Cyclist. We have been doing 4 weeks of full-time development to fix these issues and to polish it up after release. So 4 weeks after release. And now, after a little break, we are going to do about a day per week for at least a year. And that is to further polish things up, but also to bring some features into the game that have not been talked about yet, but we are going to do so once we are preparing for the 1.1 release. But larger features which will take many days of development time. And that was just not something that we wanted to put in early on because also of the chance of breaking things again, and those features would just be something that needs a bit of time as well as development time. Alright, so, but what is 1.0.5 now? That is almost 2 weeks worth of that polishing time that we have seen, and let's go through the major changes. And one of the biggest ones you will see pretty much instantaneously, and I want to talk about this a bit. So we are currently in the reordering phase, nothing special there, but we now have implemented a new phase at the start of a turn, which just shows the overview of the current race situation. So what you're going to see here naturally is just a peloton. 0 distance to everyone, and then it switches over to the movement phase, just as normal. And what should we do here? Just follow along. And I'm going to show you what that looks like and what the turn looks like when things have broken up towards the end here. But even this is already telling you quite a bit, as you see the overview of the race, the current race situation, basically all the time while I'm in AI mode. And this is shown whenever the AI is active only. When there's no player rider in a stack, and because I have set all my riders to being AI riders right now, well, there is no player rider in here. So this is the overview which was present before, but was not being triggered correctly. And I think this will be quite valuable overall, especially when it's not going that fast, because of full AI mode. Then you will find this quite helpful to orientate yourself for how large the distances are and so on. You will be reminded of that at the start of the turn and whenever the AI moves while you are not in the stack. Alright, here it is properly breaking apart, so let's do some decent follow moves and see what the race situation looks like right thereafter. Peloton is moving there, alright, all good, and you are following. So here you go. Repositioning phase, we are in E3, so this one shows up for our stack. And then the overview shows again. Then the next stack we are in is this one. So we confirm there. It shows the race overview again. And then turn overview. This is the start of the next turn. Get an overview, and now it starts moving. In future, we are probably going to do this turn overview time. Selectable in the options menu. I think that will be a reasonable thing. Alright, one more thing that we can take a look at. Something that several of you have been pointed out is that it is currently way too easy to go, or it seems odd that you can go between P1 and P0 for free. Especially in sprints, that doesn't seem quite right. So what we have done is that it takes you one resource cost to move up to P0. And when you drop back, you get nothing back. So let me just nuke my riders as we are looking at the end of the stage here. And I'm explaining the next item on the list. An important change was made to career mode in that your sponsor now only cares about the top position you hold in the yellow jersey or the equivalent in classics, so your placement. So if you're placed 2nd, 7th and 9th, then your sponsor only cares about that 2nd place and only 25% about anything that is below the 7th and the 9th. So any prestige points you get from the 7th and 9th are quartered and then added to your sponsor prestige count. That does not affect, however, the prestige count towards the league rankings. It is just a way to limit the bad behavior of players to do top 10 stacking in lower events to fulfill their sponsor goals easily. So yeah, just something to incentivize good tactics, which I consider you focus on bringing one of your riders to the top as high up as possible, which is in real life exactly what the teams are doing. So anything that incentivizes this more realistic behavior while also being fun, I think is a good move. There are two little changes to the race simulation aspect of the game, so the stages that you do not play yourself. And that is that the escapees in those stages that are simulated now actually have a chance to win. Before that, that wasn't actually implemented. It would send escapees out, but then just multiply their overall strength by 0.7, so they would never ever have a chance. So that wasn't nice of us, but we have fixed that, so that there is now a pretty realistic chance of the escapees getting through, and that chance also is very much dependent on what type of stage they are racing. The second simulation change there is that riders now also can, in simulated races, get a DNF, although that is far less likely than in the current balance of the game when players race it, because yeah, that is a little extreme. Especially for stuff like the Tour of Gazmir, where you sometimes see that there are only like 10 riders left at the end. Sounds like the good old days of cycling, but it's not quite what we are aiming for, so that is going to be addressed in future updates. We also tweaked the AI to chase down escapes a little harder for when they contain more than one team member. 2 is still considered like, yeah, that's not great, that's a little dangerous. But 3, they are now going like all out. It's like plus 3 stands. So they add 30% to their effort. They are calculating what it takes to catch you. So that usually leads to them being capped out. So they will chase you hard if you try and get away with a team attack. Or if the AI does the same. There was also some weird behavior that some of you observed in the final stages of a race. That's a bad word to use, isn't it? Final stages. On the final nodes of the stage, where leaders, for some odd reason, would not follow like easy downhill attacks. Where you were on a stage that was mostly downhill towards the finish, but it was a mountain stage before. I think we have addressed this by partially addressed this by giving leaders a high bias towards landing in the front, in the lead group that is coming from their own stack. So that means they are going to be wanting to follow those little loose attacks, even if they have not switched on their aggressive mode yet, which seems to be the issue there. That they are at the end of the stage, final descent, they are still in the main group, but no one tries to get aggressive, and when an attack was going, no one followed. So no more easy wins there, hopefully. We've been doing some tweaking to the relative performance graphs as well and how they scale, so that you do get a better idea of what that means when you're changing some of these values. And I think overall that is it's quite good. Still has a little bit more tweaking to be done to it to be fully sensible in all cases, but it's better than before. Oh yeah, this one. Right, that's a change that some of you have requested. Delete. Are you really sure you want to delete? No. Okay. Yeah, you saved your save file. Some other things that we've been doing. Adding a rider home country column to your team hub as well as to your scouting page, just for completeness sake. Also in the same vein, now Deluan riders actually have Deluan names. They are Middle Eastern inspired or influenced rather than Russian, which they were before here. Or Central Asian. I use Central Asian names for those. So still Russian sounding unless you know the differences between Central Asian kind of Russian-ish names, Soviet Union names versus pure Russian names. But yes, so now we have the complete set. Some of the Ahanan names are now Central Asian. The original Ahanan names are still Russian. And then we have the Deluan names, which are full Middle East. Oh, and such a little thing. But yeah, there's now a start marker to the stage, just to have it nicely encapsulated, start to finish. And of course, apart from all this, there are plenty of fixes, including a hotfix, of course, for the freeze bug that we have in the first release of 1.0.5. That is all sorted, and now the game should be fully playable once again. That was fixed actually just a few hours after release, like 3 or 4, but I had fallen asleep already and couldn't push it live, so sorry for that. That was a little bad timing there. So let's quickly talk about what is coming next. Well, first of all, there will be a break of 2 weeks where you will see no patches appear unless something is truly and horribly broken, such that basically no one can play the game, which I don't think is the case from what we've seen. And it seems to be running fine, especially now with this second patch. No complaints so far. So this is looking good. So 2 weeks of break. Then we get back into developing version 1.1. Version 1.1 has planned for it major changes to how the peloton works and momentum blocking. And that is that momentum blocking will be based on how much slipstream there is to gain. And that has the reason that perfectly balances that mechanic out. It will mean that across easy terrain, it will be very hard to break away from a bunch that is riding at a good speed. If the bunch is riding very slowly across, normal speed across easy terrain, then it will still be very much possible to break away. If they are going at a reasonable speed across very tricky terrain, then there will be basically no momentum blocking applied. Because, it is tricky terrain. So there's always opportunity to break away. There's very little chance for them to slip in behind your wheel and just follow. Another major change to how things are working will be that the peloton will be having its own pool of energy and attack points, and it will behave like a normal tracked rider in that it will have diminishing energy per turn and attack per turn as it loses energy as well as uses max attack. That peloton, or that peloton rider in air quotes, will be stronger the higher up in the league you go and the more teams that are participating in the race. So I think that will play really well because what it means is on easy stages you will have the peloton along for the finish and you will generate massive amounts of slipstream when they are going bonkers pace towards the end, so no one can break away. While on difficult stages, like high mountain stages, you will see the peloton be empty, like way early, and take a slow pace, and thus not be there where the absolute favorites are in the end, which seemed completely off, and it is completely off. So I think that will fix that issue that we are observing as well, and overall give it a much more realistic feel. One more thing that we are going to do for 1.1 is probably open up modding for the game. Modding is already working for the game, but we have no documentation on how to do that or the files that are needed for it or anything. It will be so simple actually that anyone without coding skills can do it. It's just modifying values and strings, i.e. texts, in a comma-separated values file, CSV file. And of course, that CSV file comes from a spreadsheet that we will provide to you so that you can easily and in a more clean and less confusing environment do the changes yourself. Another big system that I think should be coming into the game at 1.1 is the approval system. We have talked about it before. It is just making sure that you can't leech forever, but you are going to get punished. And that also needs to tie into the AI and so on. So this is a pretty big change, but that can go hand in hand with some AI tweaking, which also I think is still required. Well, as you can tell from that list alone, that will probably take a while as if we are doing 1 to 2 days per week. And that is likely, yes. I would expect around 2 months worth of time, development time. I will, of course, give you some updates in between and how things are going, what things are looking like with the new features and so on. But I think that is roughly where we would be aiming for. I'll let you know as soon as we know more, though. Alright, I think this is enough for now, and enough for 1.1, enough for 1.0, because that is now done, and we are marching towards 1.1 after just a little break. Alright, hope you enjoyed, and see you guys next time.